Hello, hello. How are you? Freaking intense energies. Yeah, we say that, but when I thought it wouldn't get any stronger or it wasn't possible, it gets stronger. So I hope you're navigating it well. Sharing some vulnerable experiences I've been having in the last little while. Reconnecting with others, especially women right now, but not from traditional containers of relationship, friendship, etc. They all have, I don't know how to describe it, icky bits in their programming. And things like dating and other stuff that try and lead to relationship all have escalators and where things lead after certain things and how you're supposed to come in and all that kind of stuff. Even friendship has certain obligations and expectations. And the powerful people I'm starting to meet at a similar energetic level, and I've met quite a few this week, and it's beautiful, but I'm finding we're all looking to create new levels of containers. And if people don't know what I mean by that, a container is the kind of boundaries or how you relate with another within. So are you about truth? Are you about honesty? Are you about beating around the bush? Or are you looking for connection or committedness or other things? Those are kind of old school, old world. They're attached to relationship, and everybody's got a trauma around them in some way, shape, or form. So what I'm trying to create in my life is new containers that don't put those labels, don't put those possibilities for drawing an old trauma in, but interacting from a new place of like almost purity and innocence, but also of honesty. Because all those old containers, we've all been hurt by somebody in a relationship. We've all been hurt by somebody in friendship. We've all had a huge disappointments around them. And we're moving into a new space where we're carving out a new reality. And we need these new containers to come from love, to come from self-love, to not re-traumatize ourselves, not cause more suffering and pain and more heartache. Because me as a man right now, I'm really, really starting to come from an open heart. And I read something beautiful on Facebook, it's in my timeline, where traditionally it was expected that the woman was coming from the heart and the man was coming from sexuality, and she basically said it was inverted. And now that I've seen it, I can agree 100%. It is inverted. There's something wrong there. I spent my whole life trying to come from an open heart and been told by people that men aren't that way, and an open-hearted man is wearing a heart on his sleeve, and blah, 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 blah. We could talk about it for an hour about how I'm supposed to be under that rule and other things, and it's not working out because it's a big mess. I'm just going to get parked here and I can talk a little more clearly. So I'm getting into this new space of who I should be, how I should feel, how I should interact with women, etc. And I'm finding to try and say it's dating or creating a relationship or whatever, it comes with a bunch of baggage just from the word. And I'm not even talking about our past stuff. I'm just saying that when that baggage is out there, everybody puts these little walls up. They put armor up. They try and protect themselves. I'm wanting to and seeing a space for it where I'm being really vulnerable and I'm open and talking to someone, sharing vulnerably, especially women, that there's a new space for a new container where we get real and we stop playing the games or inserting a relationship container, inserting a friendship container, which has a whole bunch of obligations and stuff, which both sides don't even agree with because they're unstated, their obligations, their expectations, etc. So now I'm creating a container of simplicity. It's an agreement with another for absolute honesty, absolute directness, but in vulnerability, in accountability and self-responsibility. So creating a container that's kind of for healing, because now we're going to go into a place of trusting another with the new rule set, but the new rule set hasn't been defined, so now we have to negotiate it. And that's powerful because we're breaking down old patterns around relating with others that are holding us back. They're destroying our ability to have intimacy of depth. They're based on trauma, they're based on past, they're based on stories, they're based on divorces and breakups and stuff that was all 3D programmed, that's making it impossible for us to connect and relate anymore. So now to be able to speak to a woman from a depth of saying, okay, I have these feelings, or I have this pull or attraction, and it's not attraction anymore for a relationship because that word's all demented, but it's attraction to be able to go deeper, but to build a space where anything can be talked about, anything can be explored, and we set the rules, we set our boundaries, we set, and there doesn't even have to be any, like the simplicity of nothing means nothing until it's been agreed and accepted by both sides is huge. Because when you say you go into a relationship with a person, there's a 90-page contract that goes with anybody that has a relationship. You must be monogamous, you must be text me afterwards, you must do all these things, don't be around other women, don't be around other men, all whatever, that all comes from our traumas and really is serving no one. But they're unstated, and then everybody smashes and crashes and burns because of it. So we're now at a space that's really special. We're now knowing ourselves, we're now knowing what we want, we're now able to negotiate and set safe boundaries and know who we are, what's important, etc. And now we build a container from it. It's like, hey, I am feeling a deep connection with you. I'd like to have a really deep conversation with you. I'd like to explore whatever shows up. We might talk about trauma. We might talk about sexuality. We might talk about anything that's important to either of us. And then each side basically says, yeah, I want to talk about that. Or no, that makes me feel uncomfortable. Or can we explore why it makes you feel uncomfortable? And a yes or no answer makes it complete, which doesn't exist in any other way. We get this depth and vulnerability and all this kind of stuff with all these rules where you can't say too much, but you can't say this either. It's just a mess. So what kind of container do you need? How do you want to interact with a new partner? Somebody you're going to accept into your life, somebody that you may be sexual with, somebody that you just want to share stories with and unwind with. But we really, really need to make these new containers, because I don't think we're meant to awaken all by ourselves. We need a polarity to deal with. We need a mirror sometimes. We need people that can see us, and we have the confidence that we can say directly to them, hey, what you're saying feels very negative, or what you're saying is shoulding or coulding on yourself, which is rather than being direct and saying what you need. Can you imagine if you could create a container and say, I give you permission to call me on my shit, but in doing that, I need you to be accountable, and I need you to be gentle with it, and I'll receive it. And in turn, I will do the same for you. And then you get into this relationship where you're inviting a mirror, but the rules of communication have been defined. The rules of how you need to show up. You don't, stuff that we do in relationship, like we protect people by not telling them directly how they're shitting on us, or maybe they didn't mean it, or whatever. We bounce around the thing to protect the other person, but we're actually holding them in doing that over and over and over again, or continuing or propagating it. So now we get into a place, and it's like, I had an experience very recently with a woman, and it's like, we were going back and forth, and finally I said, I have this attraction to you. And we were having these deep, amazing conversations. And I said, that doesn't mean anything. It just means I'm saying it, and it's in my energy. You might have been feeling it. I don't want to beat around the bush about it, but I have this attraction. Do you have the same attraction? She didn't have the same attraction, but she was in the boundaries of a bunch of other stuff that kind of put a wall in between being able to be attracted. So we were able to talk about it and understand that the wall's there, and maybe negotiate a space where that wall wasn't there. And it opened even more. And she was like, oh, wow, this is so beautiful. I'm so glad that you shared that, and shared it in a way that didn't make me feel bad or wrong for not feeling the same way. And I could speak the same. And from that place of honesty, of vulnerability, it was scary as hell. I was scared I was going to push her away or whatever, but I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to feel a container that would allow us to go deeper, and she wants to as well, but we got to do it within a space that doesn't have these walls. And now that we can talk about the walls, we can find a way that the walls don't need to be there anymore. And the levels of vulnerability and in intimacy, and I'm not even talking about sexual intimacy, just being able to share stuff that feels squishy or might scare somebody away or whatever, but stated in a direct fashion and responded to in accountable ways, creates this mega container like we haven't experienced in relationship. We haven't set the foundation of how we need to be met, how we need to be communicated to. How do you express things that maybe are coming out from my character style that aren't making you comfortable? It becomes powerful. But we have to negotiate these containers. And as we connect deeper and deeper and deeper, the space opens and opens and opens for something beautiful. And I love that. And I want to explore it deeper. And I want more of it in my world. But the only way for us both to be safe is to create that container. Discuss it. Say, this is what I'm fearful of. This is what I'm not okay with. This is what my societal conditioning or what my mother might think or whatever. And then boom. It's just like there, it's on the table. We swam around it. We pretended it wasn't there for a long time. It's on the table. Elephant in the room. Okay. How can I do this? Let's not talk about it around your mother. Let's not, this is something that's very private between us or whatever. Don't share that. And then you don't have to worry about what people are going to think. Because really, all too often, we're inviting people's validation or other things into it. So I don't want to go too deep into the sidetracks or whatever, but this container is a pure thing. It's rebuilding your foundation, no longer going by societal norms of how things should work. You're now self-loving and creating a space where you get to choose. And then you talk about it with another person. And actually, it's crazy beautiful because they feel safer because you now have this awareness of yourself. And then you hear them express the same thing and you feel safer around them. Because you can trust they're going to say no when they're maybe feeling bad or uncomfortable. They're not going to have this societal norm like, oh, I don't want to hurt him, or I'm scared he might think badly of me, or vice versa. Bullshit. That's where we get into trouble. That's where we get into violating our boundaries and not being safe to another person. Now we're saying, hey, the container is truth. I love you and I want you to have truth. And I want the same back. Poof. Truth can be powerful. Truth can be scary as hell, but truth will set you free. You don't have to have worries. You don't have to, hey, I'm not feeling comfortable about this. Can we talk about it? And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, great, let's talk about it. And then you find out, oh, they have an abuse, or they have something from their past with their ex or whatever that made them feel uncomfortable. Now all of a sudden you're like, hey, let's talk about it. What's going on? Oh, you don't want to talk about it? Great. But if we're going to go to that next level, at some point we got to be able to find the courage to talk about it, or else we just stay stuck in the old mold. So creating a new container is creating a new mold, and it's creating a launching pad for new experiences for you. Stuff that's really deep and intimate. Maybe sharing something vulnerable that you've never shared with anybody else. Once you have a container, once you can trust that person to hold the space, amazing, magic. So this is what I'm encouraging. I'm going to talk more about it in the coming week of how I'm constructing my containers, how I'm building them so that we can both feel safe, that we don't have to get the term relationship on things to be able to go deep with a person. We don't have to do things that are tied to what we call like anchors or commitments or whatever, not to avoid the commitments, but the commitments were never even negotiated or discussed. So now all of a sudden we're in a space of being really integral in what we're agreeing to. And then you can say, oh, I'm scared. That feels like I'm being trapped, or I'm being forced into commitment, which is something very common for men. Women want a commitment. But how do I talk about it? How do I share that with her? How do I say, whew, this is making me feel a little scared, like we're locking in for a long-term relationship or whatever. I don't even know you yet. I don't even know you sexually yet, which is a wound for me, because a lot of men had non-sexual marriages or marriages without that, and they're going into their next experience and they're trying to recreate something where you don't carry that wound through. You don't have to patch it through. So those discussions are valid, at least for a man. And honestly, if a woman doesn't want to have that discussion, or that makes them feel uncomfortable, then maybe they got their own issues as well, and vice versa. It works both directions for men and women. I've heard it both sides. But this is the things to create new levels of interest, of excitement, of whatever, that we need to build a container to express ourselves, to create that holding, beautiful cocoon that we need to be able to go to the next level with ourselves, so, and with another. So let's talk about more containers. Put some notes in the bottom. What containers are you building? How do the containers make you feel? A lot of people have never experienced them, but it's a really beautiful held space where two people come together in absolute truth, absolute vulnerability, direct communication, but accountable and loving and self-loving. So this is something new, and I'm going to talk about it more, and it's something I think we really, really need more in our world. Have a good day. Talk to you soon. Love you.